One of my favorite things is to work with clients more than once. I love nothing more than doing a sibling journey with a set of parents who are doing surrogacy for the second time, or an egg donor who's on her second or third egg donation, and even surrogates who are on their second or maybe third surrogacy. But how many times can a woman be a surrogate? Stick around and we'll talk about it. What's up? My name is Corlandos Scott, and I am a surrogacy attorney based in Los Angeles, and I've dedicated my practice to helping people grow their family through surrogacy and helping the women that help the people grow their family through surrogacy. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how often a woman can get pregnant, and we'll also talk about how many times can a woman become a surrogate. So you may be wondering, how many times is too many? How many times can a woman get pregnant in a lifetime? Well, since pregnancy takes 9-10 months, give or take, a couple of weeks, a woman can get pregnant once a year from the time she's able to reproduce. One study estimated that a woman can have around 15 pregnancies in a lifetime. 15. Now, is that advisable? Well, I'm going to say probably not. But how about a surrogate? How many times can she do it? Okay, so I'll get a little bit in the weeds here and say that there is a distinction between a surrogate candidate and an actual full-blown surrogate, if you will. So here's the thing. A woman can go through the process of being qualified as a surrogate, passing her psychological evaluations and her medical screening, and going through a contractual phase where she initiates in drafting and reviewing and negotiating and signing a contract with a parent. And that is a surrogate candidate. However, when that embryo is transferred into her uterus and we get a positive pregnancy result back, then we have a full-blown surrogate, a woman carrying a baby. Now, I've had clients, surrogate clients, who were on their first pregnancy, but we went through about 2 or 3 rounds together before they actually got pregnant. For whatever reason, maybe the match fell through during the negotiation phase on one of them, or maybe the transfers never resulted in a pregnancy. But I just want to make sure you know that there is a little nuance there between just the qualified candidate and the actual pregnant surrogate. So let's talk about how many times a surrogate can get pregnant as a surrogate. Now, when you're shopping around for agencies and law firms, you'll probably have those professionals give you advice and tell you that they can talk to you and give you an answer on how many times a surrogate can be a qualified surrogate and be pregnant as a qualified surrogate. They'll give you I'll call it a correct answer, but only a medical physician can provide you with the right answer. Now, here's what I mean by that. Based on the standards that are being followed in the ART community, a surrogate can go through the pregnancy phase for maybe 5-6 times, 6 times being the non-negotiable maximum. I mean, you probably would not want to involve yourself in the risks associated with the surrogacy pregnancy past the 6th surrogacy pregnancy. Now, this includes previous pregnancies before being a surrogate also. So if a surrogate already had 4 previous pregnancies before becoming a surrogate, then she probably should only have 2 chances left. Also, when you think about it, the number of times should depend also on the types of deliveries she's had. So how many of her deliveries have been vaginal births and how many have involved cesarean sections? We have to remember that a C-section is a serious surgery procedure. So she shouldn't really have any more than 3 C-sections. But the reason that I say all of this is I'm the lawyer telling you what are the norms in the industry. But what I meant earlier was that only a doctor can tell you the right answer. And the right answer is going to come from examining your specific surrogate, looking at her medical records, assessing her body and her health. Because although a book or a best practice may say 5 or 6, for your surrogate, it may be pregnancy number 3 should be the last one. Or for your surrogate, it may be surrogacy number 6 or pregnancy number 6 rather, that she should go all the way up to. But depend and lean on your medical providers in this process for sure. So let's look at some of the factors that affect the number of times a woman may become pregnant or should safely become pregnant, especially in a surrogacy arrangement. But before we do me a favor. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. Yeah, let YouTube know you like it so YouTube will share it with some other people and we can get some good information out there and help one more person become the parent that they deserve to be. Now let's look at some of these reasons. Now, generally, when we're looking at a surrogate mother or a surrogate or a gestational carrier, however you've heard them referred to, it's typically a person who has a great track record of easy pregnancies and deliveries. But here are some things that can affect how many times she should do it. Number one, age. Age is a factor in the risk associated with pregnancy, and there's no way around it. So the age of the surrogate will factor into it regardless of how many successful pregnancies she's had in the past. As far as best practices are concerned, typically when you're working with an agency, you'll find that they're not going to be working with surrogates over the age of 40 years old for sure. Another factor is physical condition. Your surrogate should be physically capable of sustaining the pregnancy without major risks. Another factor, medical condition. Now, depending on the gaps between the births or deliveries that she's had, with each pregnancy, the risks associated with giving birth increase. Also, it depends on the number of C-sections, like we mentioned, and normal deliveries. So look at the number of vaginal births versus cesarean births. And last but definitely not least, a factor is the psychological condition of the surrogate. Pregnancy, let's be honest, it takes a toll not only on the surrogate's body, but also on her mental and psychological well-being. It is honestly a feat. And I give it up to every woman on the face of this earth who has ever given birth, because I'd never be able to do it. And it truly is the magic of life. And it doesn't come without a price. So that toll is taken on both her body and on her mental and hormonal well-being. So that's something that has to be taken into account when we're looking at the number of times she should be carrying a pregnancy, especially a surrogacy pregnancy. Now, let me sum that up by saying this. The surrogate's health should always come first. Even if she's willing or if she thinks she's capable of carrying a baby as a surrogate, it should depend on the result of her medical screenings before she's matched with a candidate of intended parents. So with that being said, you'll often find that if a surrogate does not pass her medical screening, or if there are any question marks even in her medical screening that are borderline and make her maybe not the best candidate, you'll find that many surrogacy agencies or medical professionals will advise against working with that particular surrogate. And it's not because they would like to discriminate against that person in particular, but we want to avoid any risks for putting her life and her health in jeopardy. Here are some of the risks that we can help avoid or at least mitigate as much as possible by having a proper medical screening. We can limit the risks on the child. That is, the risk of premature birth, the risk of miscarriage, the risk of low birth weight. There's also risks that we mitigate or lessen as it relates to the surrogate. There's health risks, pregnancy complications, the toll that miscarriage takes on the surrogate also, damage to reproductive organs. There's also the potential emotional risks that we hope to mitigate or lessen, like postpartum depression, even confusing feelings during and after the process of surrogacy. Even the challenges that may come with coping and living with her own family during this pregnancy. These are things that we hope to lessen during the medical and psychological screening phases of the process. So as you see, there is not really a hard and fast number that your potential surrogate should observe as when she cannot be a surrogate anymore. It really needs to depend on a number of factors that you work with your professionals to determine. If you're thinking about going through the surrogacy process and you're looking for some help, I have something for you. I call it my 3 T's of a successful surrogacy. And it's the 3 things that you absolutely must have in place in order to have a successful surrogacy. Any one of these 3 things out of its place, and you're probably doomed to fail. I'll give you the first T. The first T is team. If you want the other 2 and you want to see how they all interact, click the link below and get access to the 3 T's of a successful surrogacy. It's free, so go ahead and get it. I'll see you in the next video.